Will, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good seeing you. The markets. I know everybody has been kind of blah, but more importantly, the team, we're working nonstop. And one particular topic is going to be revenue generating, which is extremely important, especially during this time frame. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Some developments, obviously, with upLink and, as the title had said, something with a Launchpad. I'm leaving it up to them if they what they want to include on that. Now, as always, we just have the disclaimer. Let me just put that up real quick, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back up.
Hey, guys. How's everybody doing this morning?
We're still here.
It's
We're
still here.
still alive. Can we just take a moment and take a breath?
Yeah.
Relax.
We
Yes.
survived this pandemic, surviving a bear market, we survived a COVID crash, like all these things, right? A war.
We survived Terra
An
Luna.
intense couple years.
We survived Russia.
We're still dealing with some of that, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So one thing that I definitely want to actually put across right away, a lot of community members have said nonstop that they don't necessarily want to hear about market talk, but this is kind of just what's happening, and it is a big deal. There's a lot of projects in general, from altcoins, microcaps, to the large, huge market cap projects that have honestly just put a hold on marketing and like work in general. That's just the reality of where we're at. It's not like your typical business. Crypto is in its own little world. But what's interesting to highlight, however, and especially just with the Flourishing AI team and the services and the products behind here, it's actually revenue generating. And that's something that is extremely important to get across, because there are thousands, 15 plus thousand projects that are out there that just have like a token that doesn't really do anything, perhaps, safe to say. But a lot of them just don't actually generate revenue, and they're actually hurting or going to become non-existent, perhaps.
In crypto winter
Many
markets,
tokens
there's a
will go to
likelihood
zero in this environment.
Yeah.
Let's be honest,
true.
many of them. And in fact, even like publicly traded companies will go to zero in this environment. Companies that are full securities, that are over leveraged, this type of market will just crush them to zero, and they'll file Chapter 11. Like this is reality. This is the reality of a bear market, right? And then after the bear market's over, a whole new crop of industry and companies will kind of grow out of the ground, right? So it's important to have real money, real fundamental worth of your company, right? And this is important. This is what we've been talking about for a long time, why we always hedged fate with a cash business, is you need to support like a fundamental valuation for your company, more than just speculation, right? Fate is just a very, very fancy version of speculation in the market in regards to managing portfolios, right? But you need to have both sides of the coin so that you can survive through all different types of market conditions.
So interestingly enough, real quick, not really a side tangent, however, but if you just go onto like CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, the top 7 or so projects, it's all stable coins. You just see ETH, BTC, and then BNB. EXRP just flipped Binance USD, but it was all just stable coins. So everyone's kind of like on the sidelines waiting to see what like the next steps are. It's kind of interesting to see that.
That's everywhere.
It's literally Bitcoin, Ethereum, and a bunch of stables and BNB.
Yep. All right. As you could tell, I'm not in my studio in the office. I'm trying to take a little bit of a break, Memorial Day weekend, but we're still working, right? That's the other part to this whole thing. Everything can be red, negativity, all that kind of stuff. But the most other important side is that everyone's still working. We're not just saying, okay, to you guys like in a couple of months from now, there's been improvements and we're still moving along. That's the other important part that we kind of have to get through.
Yeah,
That
and
bears.
this, we had this type of conversations around the summer of last year in that bear market, and we still kept getting on camera every week, and that consistency is important, right? It's important.
Well, and big picture, taking a step back right now, everybody's token's getting hammered. Everybody's portfolio is getting hammered, right? Which, quick aside, and putting on my sort of marketing hat, right? That is why Flourishing AI was created. It's not just to benefit in bull markets. It's also to protect your bull market profits while you're in the crypto winter, right? But putting that aside for a minute as well, all of the really great projects with really great fundamentals, really, that have established utility. I'm not talking about a meme coin, Ronald McDonald coin or whatever. I don't even know if that's a thing. I just made it up, by the way.
It probably is.
I'm sure everyone's going to coin right now. Ronald, yeah, let's put up a page for Ronald McDonald coin. So the thing is, like, if for those projects, the coin is out, it's a meme token, right? Like the token's out, it's a meme token, who knows, right? But all of the tokens that really have an underlying utility and a product, right now, everybody that I know of, and I talk to lots of project heads, they're all building. They're all preparing for the bull market. So for you guys out there, if you're invested in a project, if you're bought into a project, if you believe in a project, now's the time basically to start getting those projects talking to each other, creating synergy, right? That includes us, by the way. We always appreciate introductions, in particular for upLink. But the other side of it is that, they should have a very clear path in this terrible market. If you look at the announcements, we talked about, sort of how we're going to sort of weather the crypto storm. And the answer is we're in build mode. Everybody worth their salt in crypto is in build mode right now, preparing for the next bull market.
Yeah.
That's the smartest thing you can do.
A lot of it's under wraps. Like, companies are not going to tell you what they're building. It'll just magically come out and be marketed when the time is right, when they see that there's signs of life. Then all this stuff that these companies have built during this step will suddenly come to light, and then everything's going to start pumping. Like, oh my God, you were working on that for the past 6 months?
Yes, exactly.
It's going to be that over and over and over again.
It's odd to even have that kind of a strategy. In this space, it's a little, it's just different than your typical company where you really have communities backing you and you're kind of always just talking to them. You're more engaged with them. So you are keeping them up to date, such as, that's basically what we're doing. So to see projects that just come out of nowhere being like, boom, here's a crazy cool product or whatever it is. I don't know. I feel like they're also missing out and doing themselves. They're not doing it the right way. I feel like they should have the community kind of helping them get everything going forward. That's my opinion on that.
Yeah, now's the time for projects to connect with each other, right? Yeah. And figure out ways to create this supporting lattice or infrastructure between them so that as everybody starts to emerge into a bull market, you have a lot of these synergies, right? So you have your token project A, you have your token project B. If they support each other, then both of them go up because they support each other, independent of anything else the individual projects are doing, right? So that's the key. Yeah. That and just build, right?
So
that's what we're doing, right?
This is a good segue towards upLink, by the way. All right. It's a good setup. You're setting us up for here. Projects as of now have the opportunity to actually generate revenue, right? So through upLink, but then also build up their liquidity. But more importantly, also, it's the time to get ready. Because then, just as Will had said, once the rally and everything kind of starts to come back, that's not the time to then start talking to exchanges, the large exchanges, because that application process actually takes months. Like, I've seen projects literally within like 6 months plus just to get listed on top tier exchanges. Even after payment, it takes that long to actually get the whole process going. But something like upLink, obviously, it's much faster. But now is the time to actually start getting things ready. You don't wait till the last minute in this space. If you wait to the last minute, you missed it. You basically just missed it. Yeah, exactly.
And we're seeing too, even now, like, there is a class of people that still have disposable income despite the environment. They haven't gone all in, and they're seeing everything crash and they're just buying it up, right? And in that regards, uplink has worked really well. Like, it's interesting watching the demographics as it's progressed since we've had uplink live. In the beginning of the year, it was a lot of these smaller transactions. Now we're seeing fewer transactions but more whales. So somebody will come in and just buy like $5,000 of some token, like just straight up, right? Versus before it was like a bunch of different people buying $100, $200 lots. And so it's really interesting watching that shift as we turned into this like severe bear market.
That is actually interesting, because that in itself could possibly be another. I mean, it's obviously data, but if you have enough customers, so as the actual platform grows, that could be an early signal as to another run, perhaps.
Exactly.
Could very well be. I mean, it's data. It's data that other people don't necessarily have access to. So that's pretty strong to actually have.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? It's not something that we had expected or thought about when we made it, that we would have this kind of demographic shift this way, but it makes sense.
Okay. All right. So uplink. In the prior shows, we talked about getting into the metaverse niche, right? So building yourself around that, which is important because there's so many different genres and different categories that are out there. So to put focus on one is going to help. But there is another side of crypto that regular businesses don't. I guess regular businesses have like celebrities, but I feel like influencers in crypto are like real influencers, have so much more control than in like the real world, right? So uplink in the back end, it's being more custom tailored for certain influencers. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, and this is an idea that we've been talking about for a little bit, and I really just love this idea. And I'm going to tip it to you, Jason. I mean, this is something that really came from your font of great ideas. You have tons of them, and that is that if you think about what influencers do, in whether it's in current markets or whether it's in better markets than what we have right now, there's always an emphasis on looking at certain tokens that seem more attractive, whether that is, hey, y'all pull back into stables for a little bit, hang out, or whether it's, hey, now's the time to go ahead and jump back in a little bit into Bitcoin because, I don't feel like it's going to go down much further than 28, 29 levels. So, hey, now might be the time to buy. By the way, that's not a prediction. I'm just simply using that as an example. The thing that uplink provides a lot of these influencers, and the thing we want to start to look at, is if your influencers recommend certain tokens, well, what if they could just simply provide those tokens for sale right on their websites or link right from their YouTube stream, right? So those are things, fully looking at the fact that influencers can only introduce you to these things, and you should always, we emphasize on this show every time, you should always do your due diligence, always do your own research. But having said that, what if your influencer can go ahead and make it easy for you to buy into that token if you and your research also conclude that, yes, that is a good buy and I agree with that influencer, right? I don't have to go to a DEX. I can just whip out a bank card and off to the races I go, click a link and you're there, right? That's the kind of power uplink provides. So
I think that's a pretty solid deal for projects also. I mean, think about that.
Right?
That's some strong power to be able to ask or to have another influencer actually, like, of course, backing you is another thing, but to basically say, go here instead of another exchange or all this other stuff. Again, it's fast, simple, easy credit card. Like, you really start to think about it and understand just how easy this whole approach has, I don't know, to me, because I'm getting kind of mixed up, because in the back end, I'm helping out with like the marketing and all this stuff. But the reality is, the one question, and I'll say this again, the one question that's asked over and over and over again is just, how do I get your token?
Right.
And that's like, doesn't matter what market cap the project is, it always comes down to, how do I buy your token? So to have a simple answer saying with a credit card, even if you're an influencer or a regular person, like, that's just like mind blowing in itself. Just use your credit card, get it.
I'll tell you another question that often is asked.
Yeah, it's crazy.
what is the utility of your token, right? This question is asked of every project, every crypto, right? So one of the ideas I had the other day was, how can we help facilitate the creation of utility for tokens? So one of the things that I'm building into upLink now is a way to connect upLink not only as a payment to directly buy a token, but also to route it into a product or service, right? And say, I want to offer this product that is tied into my token. So you go into upLink, you buy this, the project is notified via API, and then they get to offer a product related to their token through the upLink purchase, right? To think about how that would work, right? And this enables projects to create utility out of tokens and also tie it into a bank card, right? It's a huge thing. Let's say that you have you're selling widgets, right? Or like somehow thing like it's tied and you want to pay with your token to get a widget, right? Or something like that. We're working on a way in upLink where you can buy the widget with a bank card, which internally then buys the token and then does whatever, sends it to the project owner, destroys it, burns it, whatever you want to do. And then it all sorts it out and it ties the real value of that item to the token directly. And it also connects all that to easy use with payment with a card. And I think that every token could to take advantage of that, right?
I didn't know you wanted to bring that up or talk about that. That's I think that's actually one of the biggest news of this right now. It's not actually. So yes, I agree with everything that you said, but just talking about uplink and the back end and the longevity of the project going forward. So we're talking about Flourishing AI and then uplink, because attachment to then other projects and then building upon that, it becomes more long term. It's being cemented into more of a long term partnerships, collaborations. Right. Think about the big picture here.
Real companies they make revenue by making real products. And these are how companies that are survivable, right? You think about, Tesla, right? They have a real product. It's a car. They sell a car. And that's how they're able to make money and they run an actual business, right? A lot of tokens that they're simply speculation and it's just nothing underneath the hood. Those are not solid businesses. There's no fundamentals there. If you create something and you sell it, I'm selling these pink girl bowls, right?
New side
but
business.
Then you tie it to your token and then you enable people to buy that item with a card, but it's connected to your token also. Who wouldn't do that? You've just created fundamental value for your business.
So you guys are familiar with staking to receive access, right? So I stake. Launchpads are, sort of the textbook case of this, right? You stake and then you get access to these projects, right? Well, what if you could get access to certain services by buying instead of staking? That's where uplink's going, right? So to put it slightly different terms, right? So think about the synergies there. You have project A, you buy into project A, you can buy into project B for a discount. Or you buy into project A, you can access certain project B or maybe even additional, project benefits with a buy. So that's just a simple lookup. So we're enabling some new models that really we haven't seen much of. It's not that we've never seen these models, but we've seen them sort of haphazardly implemented, and we're trying to sort of take this to the next level as well.
Well, it's also, I guess, I personally don't really think about it often, but a lot of projects in the crypto space are somewhat isolated, where it is just about themselves, right? And then their own token. This is why you need to buy our token because it's part of our ecosystem, which is fine, but it's theirs. So now that token is entirely dependent on the success of their team, community, and just building it up. Whereas once you start branching out and connecting in partnerships, collaborations, that's now more of a raise all tides type situation. It becomes much the linking the uplinking of that is much stronger.
You know
I
how
like
you
that.
used to watch
Yeah.
Sesame Street as a kid and they would tell you the word of the day? Today's word of the day for Flourishing Live, synergy, right?
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. But that's a big
Corporate
point. You don't
Sesame
really think
Street.
about that.
Sesame Street, yeah. I'm going to start counting like the count. You know. Wow, that takes me back. Do kids even watch Sesame Street anymore? Like, I don't even know. Are they still cool?
No, man. I don't even know.
My
That's a
kids
whole-
haven't really watched it, but when we were in Jamaica, it was all Sesame Street themed there,
Yeah.
and at the resort, and they loved it. They loved all the characters.
Mhm.
They wanted to know more about the characters, Cookie Monster and the fairy. What's her name? The fairy girl.
The fairy. Oh.
I don't even remember.
It's one of
that
the
one.
new
Yeah.
ones that they introduced later on in Sesame Street. You know, to kind of have some gender equality, because the original Sesame Street was.
I was definitely not good. Yeah. Half the
Product of
stuff
the
that we
70s.
watch is no longer good. All right, let's get away from that. No politics or any of that stuff here. We're all about solid
Growth.
stuff.
Yeah.
All right, times are changing. All right, so this is actually pretty cool. And ironically, I never really put that different perspective on things where a lot of projects in this space really are they are isolated. They really do actually, I never really kind of thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's very
So
true.
think about all the projects
It's
that
true.
are out there, the ones that you might be investing in, doing your research on, and put that. It's another interesting viewpoint. Never actually really kind of thought about that.
You know, the more you can create connective tissue amongst projects, you do two things, right? You make the project more valuable to anybody who's holding the token and is benefiting from that utility, number one. Number two is also, if you are a user of those services, whatever they may be, they're more valuable together to you, potentially, right? I mean, it's got to be well thought out. But in theory, it actually is a benefit both ways. That's the key.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just now, recently, just with like the metaverses, NFTs, with these NFTs, it's just that NFT, that community. And then usually that's kind of it. Very few are branching
Right.
out and getting connected or integrated into other projects. But then metaverses in particular, that is their metaverse, right? It's their virtual land, it's their ecosystem. And the ones that I know you guys are talking to, they are bringing in businesses, like real corporate companies for advertising and then
Correct.
further growth. That's like the real long-term stuff. So I mean, that's definitely the way to be going. So for those that are looking into these metaverse, the games, is it just the game that's just there? Can it be integrated elsewhere? That's a good point to actually have.
So let me give you a not so hypothetical, right? And I'm changing some of the names here, right? But because I don't want to spill the beans, and I'm going to give you sort of a general, vague idea of where this is going. So you buy a Metaverses token on upLink in the within a certain limited period of time, and let's say that it's a sports related. You could play basketball and volleyball and baseball and all these other things in the metaverse.
Okay.
I'm making up a scenario here. Well, if you buy a token from July 1st to July 31st, in game you get like a Gatorade themed sweatshirt or something within the game, or you get a Spalding branded basketball that you can go right. So it's starting to delve into areas where you have these co-branding relationships in metaverses. And that to me signals a very healthy ecosystem that is gaining attention from advertisers that want to further extend their experiences. And look, marketers talk about the brand experience. So what does that mean? That usually means running ads somewhere and then running some kind of a promotion, on Rockstar or Monster Energy drinks. You have a little code, pop it into your Xbox, and you get something in game. We're going beyond that at this point, right? To where, it's participation based. It's not just you buy a product off the shelf, right? So it's more involved in, hey, I'm involved in this metaverse. I'm backing the project itself. I can also be a consumer of the services. I can get involved, and I can also sort of expand my knowledge of crypto within that metaverse, talk to others, and also get additional benefits. So I'll leave that there, and I'll let you guys kind of, think about what that potentially means. But the key here is that you're going to start to see some interesting models in the next, 12 to 24 months, I would say, in metaverses. And so that's going to be a real hot spot. It's going to shift from I'm buying NFTs and I'm in that metaverse to a variety of different models. And I'm starting to see a lot of projects work on that right now. And so we're starting to see the very, very front end of it. And where it's going to end up and how big it's going to be is anybody's guess. But I think it's a pretty safe bet that, you know, the enthusiasm around that is not going to die off anytime soon or in the long term, frankly. There's just way too much excitement, hype, focus, energy going into that right now.
Well, taking everything a little step back and then going to the very start of like a metaverse in general, that one popular question also still stands, and that's still always going to be, how do I buy your token? So you could have the best metaverse in the world, you have your token, and if your users aren't able to go to like a virtual ATM machine to like buy it somehow, I don't know, or, you know, if they have issues with exchanges.
What if you could buy it in the physical
at the end of the day, that's what it always comes down to. They're going to need to tell their community to be able to get their token, and the best way is through upLink or come into our metaverse, segue into that through upLink, and get our token. It's pretty freaking strong, man. I mean, for those that are watching this, if you don't see the big picture here, like that's that's huge. Like it really is. You got to really think about that. I personally don't know of like these, because it always comes back to like the top tier exchanges. And for those that are project owners or part of projects and the Flourishing AI community that's watching this, understand that a lot of projects contact exchanges for like marketing purposes. You know, if there's no value behind your token, investors and people aren't going to be getting it. So you could be on these top tier exchanges, you could do all this kind of stuff, but it's really just a marketing effort. You want people to literally just get your token the simplest way possible. And it's credit card, buy it. It's so funny because it's the most simplest thing that there is, and yet we just don't. A lot of people don't think about that.
Influencer XYZ believes in our metaverse token. You can buy us on a DEX, buy it right here on our website, or go check out what the influencer has to say. Take that into account in your own due diligence, and then buy it there. Why not?
You know, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and this may be a very controversial opinion.
Oh boy!
Here we go. Yeah,
you guys ready for this? I'm going to blindside you.
Sesame Street style.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the question. Are exchanges even necessary? Are they even a necessary part of the ecosystem? If you can buy a token on the blockchain, which has been created with upLink, do you even need it to be listed anywhere? This was the problem I solved with my very first company, Andrograde, in 2008. I had this idea of these Andrograde points, and this is before even Bitcoin existed, right? And it's like, well, you know, I had this whole ecosystem, like you could, you know, do stuff with the points and get items in the game, stuff like that. It was an in-game currency, right? Just like you saw in Zelda and all this stuff with rupees, even back in the Nintendo, right? And all I did was create a payment widget to buy these Andrograde points directly. There was no exchanges. I didn't have to get listed anywhere. Is it true that crypto exchanges are literally just a racket? Right? Do you need them? Like, is it even necessary if you have a token and you want to set the value and price of your token? Is it necessary for them to even be listed anywhere? I don't know. What do you think? I know it's probably really.
You promised controversy. You delivered.
Personally, we have Uniswap, we have PancakeSwap, so the decentralized exchanges. So just making the difference between those and then centralized exchanges, right? Once regulations and all that stuff comes around, unfortunately, I do believe that the centralized ones will become stronger just because whatever legalities and regulations, that's just what's going to probably end up happening. or then for real retail and investors to get on board, they will be using the centralized versions. However, something like uplink still hasn't been formally introduced and marketed in the proper way to get that group and that attention. So once that starts happening and they realize that they don't have to go to an exchange, that's where the real, multiple values come from that. But that's like the big hit. I wouldn't go to an exchange. Why do you need to? You're getting the token right away. But I also still keep going back to metaverses in particular in games. So just going back to Will, what you've previously worked on. If you're already in that game and you're already associated, you're playing it, you don't want your gamers or community to leave your ecosystem. You always want them in there. And those top tier exchanges and all those don't have a way to do that. There is no way to get into there. Right. So something like uplink answers that and solves it. So the solution is extremely simple.
It blows my mind that the current state of affairs is you're in a metaverse, you want to buy a token for whatever reason. You have to leave that environment. You have to go to a DEX. If you're a new user and you aren't really quite sure how to set up a BSC wallet or a BNB chain wallet, a Kronos wallet, whatever the case may be, Wax, Solana, whatever it is that you're on, you have to set that up, then go to the DEX, buy it, and then come back to the metaverse. Can you guys imagine what that experience would be like, via PlayStation, Xbox? Like, so we're talking a lot about metaverses and gaming, right? Can you imagine what that experience would look like? So stop the game, go down to your 7-Eleven, purchase the in-game item, get your code, and then come back and punch it in.
Never going to happen. So,
what?
Before we even started the show, so Dominique, she's not here now, but when she was here, so she's still learning about the crypto space. And so are millions, if not billions of people. And we keep talking about mass adoption and bringing them in. But just as you said, if there's no easy way to get into it, it's not going to happen. So I think, not to put her so much on the spot, but there will be a day. So we'll plan it and we'll say, Dominique, here's uplink. And then here's like an exchange. Go buy this token. And we'll see what she does. Just out of curiosity. I'm curious to see, because she hasn't been on these top exchanges. She hasn't done any of that. So just to get like her viewpoint, I think that would be interesting. We'll see.
Yeah, it's just interesting taking a step back. The concept of an exchange, like, why do crypto exchanges exist? They exist for the purpose of speculation, right?
Exactly.
If you have real utility for your token and you know what the value of that utility is, you can set the price, because you know that, for example, this pink bowl cost $1 to make it. So if I want to use these tokens to buy this bowl, it has to be $1 worth of those tokens, right? And if that token is on the open market being speculated on, you can't control for that price.
Sure.
Somebody's going to buy this bowl for 1 cent. Somebody's going to buy it for $10. It's not going to make sense, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking specifically about metaverses, right? And people that produce real products.
I was just also laughing at, and this has nothing to do with intelligence or anything like that, because it applied to me when I first started looking at like Pancake Swap, going on to adding BSC chain, all that stuff to MetaMask. It's not going to happen. She's going to just look at uplink and be like, I'm going to stop here. I'm done. I'm good. I already know that's going to be the results. So I'm just playing it in the back of my head. I can already see that happening. And not just for her, for thousands of people. Once this is introduced, once they see it, it's much easier.
It'd be fun to get like a live stream of somebody using uplink for the very first time who's never done crypto. What do you guys think, community? Should we do that?
I got plenty of people that I got lined up that can do it.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Could do it. All right. Launchpad. What's up with that? A lot of people want to know. I want to know a little bit as well.
So, You know how we've talked about projects that are busy building, but they're in stealth mode and they're not talking about what they're building? Then there are projects that kind of give you everything months in advance, right? We're going to take a nice little mill road here. So we are working a Launchpad into the mix. We are busy sort of building right now. That's all I'm going to say. Just really basics. We are getting into not just the make it easy to buy a token, but make it easy to start to launch a token, right? Now, there are other launch pads out there that provide similar services, right? So, okay, so you characters, like, how are you different? And that's the part I'm going to be quiet on. There is actually a very big difference between us and the other guys. There's a difference for you as a potential participant, and there's a difference for the project itself. We are actually approaching it from a fairly unique angle, and it is just like upLink, going to be heavily, maybe not exclusively, but heavily metaverse focused. So that's all I've got for you right now. It's just a little smidge of FOMO for you there, right? But more to come in the coming months. I mean, we expect to be a lot more vocal about Launchpad going into late summer, early fall. So stay tuned for that.
Okay.
But we're in build mode, just like all the quality projects out there, right? So we'll talk about it a little bit. We want you guys to know what we're thinking, what we're working on. And we're going to leave it there because we want to have a little bit of FOMO left for that late summer, early fall introduction.
There's one part that we could say just makes sense. All right.
Bring it.
And that's if you're on a Launchpad, let's just say it's an upLink Launchpad or whatever the name might be. But just as Will had said before, the point of an exchange. Bless you. Mm-hmm. So that's actually a good sign right then and there. So on that point, a lot of projects that are on Launchpads, the timing of going from a Launchpad, so the actual raising of capital, to then going live, or then also getting onto an exchange right after a raise, you need to know people. This is something that has to be planned out. And in this market, because nobody really knows where it's going, that's going to be extremely hard to actually connect. Like the timing of that, scheduling it, that it's honestly probably not going to happen. The moment that the exchange says like you're listed on this date, you're not going to be able to change it, or then probably delay that ongoing. But what I'm getting at is to see a project raise capital and then go right into acquisition. So through upLink right away. Like that's in itself is amazing. So you guys got to think about that. You go from a Launchpad to then being available right away, credit card right away, acquisition. It's not, okay, you have to go into MetaMask, you have to add this, you have to do all these other things, or you have to wait for this exchange to then list us. The moment that ticker is going down, sales done, maybe upLink right away. That's
right in that same
strong
widget.
Yeah.
Right. Think about that. Right. So Launchpad, ticker, countdown. Now you can go ahead and buy if you're part of the community. Once that sale's done, flip it over to market sales. Pretty powerful.
I have never seen anything like that. I haven't seen anything like that. So
one of many things we're working on, but that's a neat approach, right? And it centralizes the operation right back onto the project website, the project app. We're all about meeting in particular new users, because you guys are experts, right? Those of you who are listening to this show, you guys have kind of been around the crypto scene for a while. You know what's what. All your friends that are asking you, should they get into crypto? That's the audience that we need to capture for crypto to really sort of rocket across the board. We're all about growing the ecosystem. And when we say the ecosystem, it's not just the Flourishing AI upLink ecosystem. It's the crypto ecosystem as a whole, right? That's going to be huge. And sort of cutting those steps down to, I can go to a single place, just that app, that website, and I can do everything from help them launch to, purchase additional tokens. That right there, huge.
Well, it's not only just simplicity, but safety is the second issue, right? You're going to get somebody involved in cryptocurrency. You kind of need to hold their hand. There's a lot of dangerous stuff in this space, right? So you need to solve both pieces to really kind of get somebody into it and make them have a good experience and not immediately leave, right? And this is the stuff we've been touting for a long time, right?
My head's still
Both aspects.
I'm still thinking about uplink, just going straight from a Launchpad to having something like that just set and like ready to go from the start. Like that in itself is extremely powerful for any project that's out there. That's huge.
Engaging new users and making it easy to stay, that's going to be the new horizon, right? It's not going to be about artwork, right? Although that's, certainly something that metaverses have to have out there, right? It's not going to be about, creating the promise of land buys, although that's going to be a thing, right? Going forward as well, right? As it has been in the past. But it's all about engaging those users and kind of keeping them in the metaverse. That's going to be different because as crypto adoption starts to eventually, we're not there, starts to go from, sort of exponential growth to linear growth to more flat growth, it's going to be more important than ever to keep attention on your property for these projects. So think long term, right? We're not thinking the next week or two. We're thinking the next couple of years here, right? That's going to be really important.
Like it's kind of.
And if I'm going on and on too much about this and I sound like a broken record, you guys let me know. But I really think this is important stuff.
I find it also somewhat interesting that Will, you're just brought back into the same position that you were in so years ago. So when you're talking about just putting the widget within like an ecosystem, because that's basically what's happening live, like right now with these metaverses. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
Like you just when we're talking about like PlayStation, Xbox, whatever these games, you don't stop playing these games to then go somewhere else to buy credits or do this other stuff. And with these metaverses, the project owners and investors, they wouldn't want that to happen with their metaverse. Think about that. Like they want you in and stuck in that system.
Yeah, it's weird. These clients that we're bringing on an uplink, like it's like they were me in the past, right? Like I was them 14 years ago.
But the important part with that is not only did you or were you involved with the innovation aspect behind all of that. Like this is real time. This is like to me this is like formal stuff right here. Like Bill, you were in it at the start of that before it actually happened, and you're literally in that same moment again. Like do you even see that?
It's weird. I mean, it's
Yo, you're
it's
back
like
again
a
in the same
spiral,
spot,
right? Because we had, when I was younger, when I was a kid, I grew up on video games and was conditioned to this idea that you had this kind of in-game currency, whatever it was. Like in Zelda, it was rupees. In many different games, it was gold. In like it was points in some games. It was things like this, But there was no concept of it having a real world value. And in the early mid 2000s, we started coming up with the first cell phone games, which I worked on a lot of the first cell phone games before the iPhone, and then the first web games that were all written in Flash. I did a lot of those stuff.
I remember those.
And like I was working with people at like Addicting Games and Congregate and all these, Mocha Media, like all this stuff. And nobody could figure out like how to make money off of these web games. They would just put an ad on the page and they gave up, saying the only way we can make money is to like put a Google ad on our page or whatever. And I said, this isn't right. And I thought about this at this time, PayPal had just come out, and we were having kind of the beginnings of e-commerce where you could buy something online, it would get delivered to you. I said, why can't we just buy these in-game points online using the same system? And that was the concept for my first company. That's how Android came to be. And this was before blockchain existed and all this stuff. And then you go full circle, right? And then the idea of a blockchain came about. And then it's like, oh, well, it should be like a market. It should be like a currency. It should be like this and this and this and this, right? And now it's coming all the way back around. Then it came back to NFTs. Now it's coming back to games all over again. But now it's just instead of points, it's a blockchain technology under the hood. but it's the same problem I had in 2008, right? It's the same
And
thing.
you solve that problem, and you're solving it again. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You already have the experience, you have the knowledge, and now you're applying that. Like I don't know. To me, if you guys are watching this, that is literally the definition of FOMO right there. I mean, that's what it is. You have somebody that's been through this countless times in another time, and yet you're. I don't know. To me, it's just kind of crazy.
It's
You're
just, I
reliving it,
think it's
man.
just life. You know, I'm old enough to see that life kind of goes in circles. Like you get presented with the same situation, and then it comes up again like 10 years later, and then it comes up again like 6 years later.
And every time you're better at it.
Yeah, and then you have a different perspective every time it comes up. You know?
Man, I'm like, you're giving me flashbacks of like GeoCities, Lycos, like all those old like sites and Flash games, and I'm just like, yeah, we came a long way, man. Even the iPhone, you had talked about like the iPhone. iPhone's only been around for like 10 years now, I think, something like that. Not a long time, but that's what I'm getting at. Like the pace in which technology is moving, it's fast. So,
but it was revolutionary. I used to write games for the old, like the flip phone, the Razor phone, the old Samsungs, like all that
Remember
stuff.
that? Damn.
And it was a nightmare. Every manufacturer had a different idea of how to make a phone and what should be in it, what hardware should be in it, how much memory it should have, how fast it should be. It was terrible making games for those phones. That was just terrible. It was just, you know, as much as I hate monopolies, this actually was good because it created a standard of like, this is the gold standard for what a phone is.
It's true.
Right? I mean, so there is a use, right? Sometimes, you know, consolidation can be a good thing.
I like the analogy that iPhone, that businesses, apps, everything is being built within it. So you could kind of see that as the analogy of like blockchain, but then also uplink, getting connected, right? Branching out, bring everything together. I like that.
We're in this stage now where we are trying to figure out what is the gold standard of what a blockchain should be. And I don't think we've seen it yet. I'll be honest. Like we're still kind of like figuring it out. Like Ethereum was kind of the gold standard for a little while. And like, oh, it's too slow. What about NFTs? What about like, you know, cross-chain functionality? And like, we're still working on it a little bit. But I think pretty soon we're going to see some chain come out that's going to have all these problems fixed. And then people are going to be like, that this is the iPhone, but for crypto. And so
what could that chain be, Will, is the question. Do you see any contenders or
still nothing? I haven't seen it because we still have fundamental problems on the blockchain itself. Like, and it's really apparent when you see things like front running and memory pool hacks and things like that, and speed issues and hashing collisions. Like, these are still like foundational problems that exist in crypto, in every blockchain.
This is the stuff, unfortunately, investors and even those, you're doing your own due diligence. Because you're not a developer or an engineer, you're not going to know about this stuff. No matter how much research you actually put into it, you're not going to know. And those that are even aware or that have like the degree and the experience, even the blockchain technology itself is moving so fast that there's only a select few that actually, for lack of better words, that actually know what they're doing when it comes down to like the coding and development aspect of like the actual blockchain.
Exactly.
There's very few that have the experience with that.
And I'm calling it now. The regulators don't get this.
No, never.
Either.
Definitely
They don't get this at all. So if you're a regulator and you're watching this, talk to us. Like, we'll tell you what to look for. Seriously, we are happy to help because there are some real problems around, again, you know, front running and some of the other things that Will has mentioned and other things that we haven't even gone to because they're way too geeky. But, you know, like these are things that need to be taken into account. But hopefully they can be taken into consideration at the blockchain level. Sorry, Will. I think I talked all over you.
No, you're right. These have to be solved fundamentally in the code for the blockchain itself. And right now, everybody who's got an idea for a blockchain, they just fork Ethereum. And they're just copying the bugs that exist in Ethereum to another blockchain.
Yeah, correct. Which has forced us to do things with AI to protect ourselves from hackers, right? And we have. Just for those of you who don't know this, we're quiet about this, but we've had folks try to, hack and obtain AI in ways that are nefarious, and we've actually cut off a lot of those folks. We're light on details because we don't necessarily want to give folks a roadmap as to how to potentially game it, although we're pretty confident in the system. But those are things that are going to be more and more important again in the coming years as well. So
the other thing that you're going to see coming up as a big overarching theme again and again is privacy versus big brother government. This is a slider. This is a slider. And of course, the government and people related to that system are going to want to pull you all the way to this other side where they're watching everything that you do. But this is giving away your sovereignty in much the same way you give up your sovereignty when you put your money on a centralized exchange.
I think we could have a whole nother show just on that topic. Also,
so it's getting very metaphysical.
Totally. Yeah, this really went deep, which I love.
So I actually really want to have a show. So Will, Eric, actually on the value proposition of crypto exchanges, because I do believe and that we're on the same page with that perhaps they don't necessarily need to exist, especially with technology and other options such as uplink. But I'm also cognizant of the time. And I do want to say one other thing, because we're talking about Ethereum now. And maybe we can end it on this note, because AI and getting onto ERC20 or turning also into an ERC20 token, it's not a duplication of what's on BSC, right? You guys are...
No, this is going to be a new token that we've rewritten, and it's fixed pretty much every problem that I've seen with the AI contract itself. There's some other things I want to add to it still, but yeah, it's in a good state right now.
Okay. But that's something that's also important, because those that are watching, yes, I do have some reverse engineering knowledge of blockchain. Okay, I could get it. There's the basic stuff, contracts, smart contracts. I understand a majority of them, but there's a lot of projects that are out there that are on BSC and then want to basically fork to another chain, and they'll use various services to basically do that. And it's not really the right way to do it. It's really not. There's so many things that could happen by doing that, where I've seen projects fail just because it just got obliterated. Something just got massively destroyed, or there's like a semicolon, something as little as that just messed up the entire smart contract. So it's good to hear that you guys are going through everything, obviously testing it, but confirming that if there were issues, those are now fixed, and we're going forward in the right way, as opposed to just another duplication.
Yeah. ERC20 itself as a standard has flaws in it. They came up with ERC 721, but nobody adopted it. So what we're left with is making a custom contract that's an extension of ERC20, but fixes the flaws of ERC20 in itself, as well as adding the features that we would expect from a modern token, right? Like, we experimented with the idea of vesting schedules with the original AI contract. In retrospect, we didn't think through it well enough to do it properly. So all of that is fixed, right? The concept of a whitelist and a blacklist, as well as things like that.
With all that said, do understand that it will still also be on BSC. So it's not like one is ending and then one is just starting. You're going to have it on both blockchains.
We're not transferring. We're expanding.
That has to be made of.
And one thing people don't realize is you could even connect a completely disparate token on one chain with a different token on another one, and this cross bridge it. And I don't even think people realize you can even do that. But you can. I could have like some random like token here and connect it, like, and say, well, the liquidity this is connected to the liquidity of some other token, and like you could connect. It's weird, the things that you can do in a blockchain. Yeah.
When it comes down to atomic swaps, also from like an engineering aspect, I know that this is a whole nother topic, but that typically only worked with projects that were like forks of like Bitcoin. Like, it had to be forks of each other in order for those swaps to actually work like perfectly, right? We're not just talking about like liquidity aspects or on an exchange, but actual swap, like instant swap capabilities. Those would only work through the forks of like existing or parent projects. But that was always interesting because I would see people talking about atomic swaps of different chains when it, to my knowledge, even at this point, it's not possible. It's not like you just need that service to do the exchange for you. Basically, it's not the real atomic swaps. There's a difference.
Yeah, I mean, this is why DEXs and centralized exchanges exist, is to do swaps, right?
Exactly.
For different tokens.
All right. So AI, though, on that note, for ERC20, still being tested out. There's no rush in this market. So just getting that to be blunt.
Yeah, the last thing we want to do is launch a token in a severely bear market and everybody just sells it down to the ground. It's a waste.
It makes no sense, right? So for those of you asking, and we've had a couple of questions in the community, we are long-term interested in doing it, but it's on hold right now because we don't think market conditions will support it. Simply put, we just don't think it's a good time to introduce right now.
And bridging this back to the conversation earlier, we want to make sure that AI as a token is propped up with fundamental value from actual products and services that we offer, right? And we want to make sure the utility of that token is really crystal clear, right? Otherwise, it's just yet another speculative token.
And ultimately, you could see both upLink and a Launchpad ultimately turning into the next altcoin gem platform in a way. It's the place to go to. I know there's plenty of other exchanges that have had themselves branded as such, and that kind of has fallen off in these times. And their lack perhaps of research and just adding meme coins and all that kind of stuff. So to know that you guys are actually putting real due diligence and making sure that these types of projects actually deserve to be there, that's something to take note of. And that doesn't just apply to those that are already in the space, such as us. Again, we could do our own research. We know about this, but this is also better protecting those that want to get into the space, right?
This is the safety aspect, right? We talked about two aspects, making it easy and making it safe. Right?
That'll do it. All right. Do you think we missed out on anything, or I think we actually covered a lot. I think
want to
have
shared what we're ready to share. I only have one other question. One other question, if I may. And Cards fan, I see you, brother. He asked the question. I'm going to ask it. Will, what year are you from in the future, and how did you travel back? Right.
Oh my God.
Will needs a little.
For those of you, just FYI, I've known Will for years, right? And I love to put him on the spot like this because he turns beet red, and I love it.
Best moment, yeah. Best time to do.
He's so teasable. It's great.
Best moment.
I'm 2035. How about that? We'll stick at that.
All right.
13 years.
On an interesting note, so I unfortunately forgot the name, but there's that big Metaverse conference that's happening in July, right? So that's in Vegas. It would be interesting and there is a collaborator there, so Starship and upLink, right? Flourishing AI. There's something very, very big happening on that or during that event for Starship. So this collaboration is extremely strong, but what would be interesting is there's all types of people that go to these events. It would be interesting perhaps to have a booth or table set up for people to get Starship token at the event through upLink, just on the spot. And then perhaps also, obviously, it's on BSC, all that kind of stuff. But just to get the reactions, that could be the perfect moment to be give us your opinion, feedback, all that kind of stuff right then and there. That'd be pretty damn cool. But that's going to be a good time to have it. I can tell you that.
You can even buy it on your phone, right? And we have the mobile support.
Yeah, we're not talking about the Razer flip phones. You're bringing back so many memories.
Right on your Samsung, A670.
The StarTAC.
Yeah. And the Motorola's, I remember all those phones. Indestructible. Yeah.
All the rage in 1996.
All right, guys. Let's end it on this note. I don't want you to leak any other info. I already know where you're getting at in regards to. Just leave it at that. The more I leave you guys on, you're going to be talking about more information. So let's end on this note. And this is actually important. Everything, a lot of stuff is important, but this is for the community. This is for those that are part of Starship. This is part of those that all the projects that have already teamed up with upLink, but also for the AI community. Flourishing AI community, please just understand the big picture here. All right. This isn't a quick meme token. This isn't a quick in and out type project. There's real development in the back end. I mean, we're here. But what I'm getting at is the service is real. You guys can go to uplinkdefi.com and you could get BNB, you can get AI, you can get Starship and everybody else. It's a real product. We've asked multiple times for everybody to just make referrals. Just say, if you're part of other projects, just tell them about uplink and then contact us. Because think about it, why wouldn't you want your project or other projects on uplink? Like that, I'm asking you, like, seriously, why wouldn't you want to see other projects on uplink? That project's going to be benefiting extremely from this. If you are in that project, you're going to obviously benefit from that, but we're missing that part. It's odd. It's
and
odd
we
to
give
actually
out a
do that.
referral bonus too.
Yeah, you guys
Make
like
some money.
We will give you money to referral projects. Like the thing that I just irks me to no end is people who buy the token, then complain about the price going down, and then do nothing about it and do nothing to help when they could sit there and just like call up their buddy that they're in some other random chat of some other token and easily just refer it and get paid and also pump the price of AI at the same time. That makes no sense to me.
It's a basic introduction.
That's the wrong type of way to think, honestly.
Projects helping projects and people helping people. That's how we all make it, right?
Yeah. For anybody that's
you see
here.
Wag Me Anywhere, everywhere. Well, that's how we all make it. Simple, and you make money. So
that goes back to like the other part. It goes back to like, and it's so weird to say this, and this is like going to be part of like the marketing that we have, but the most asked question over and over again is, how do I get your token? Throughout all the years that I've been in this space, that's always the number one question asked. How do I get your token? So by having the ability to tell them about uplink DeFi, which is fine, but visit our website. Use a credit card, get our token. You can't get any more direct than that.
And this also avoids
do this stuff.
This also avoids the fake token scam, right? Because people, like, what used to happen, it still happens to this day, is that they'll see a token that's a hot token, and then they'll go try to find it themselves. Like, I'm going to go buy this on the DEX myself. And then they go for like this fake scam token and they buy that instead. That happens all the time.
It happened to some people early with us.
Have a page on your site, like your company site. Go to my company site and buy my token here. It's safer.
We're actually just saying again, if most of the times, if you're in crypto, you're part of multiple projects. It's In fact, just in investing in general, you're diversified. You should be. But that's just always something that just boggles my mind. If you're in another project, just make the introduction. Simple as that. That's kind of it. Simple. You would want.
And I'll mention one more thing. Yeah, it's not just that it prevents the scam where somebody puts out a fake token or a fake contract address, as Will mentioned. But there's the other side too, is you're helping the project out as well, right? Because the other side of that scam is a lot of projects have fallen for this, and we've seen folks approach us with this same scam, and we tell them to go pound sand, right? But a lot of projects get approached with, "Hey, I want to buy your token," and what they'll do is they'll throw out a transaction with kind of insufficient gas fees. Forward it to the project. The project naively sends tokens, and then the whole thing gets backed out, and then the scammer essentially cashes out on their tokens, right? Sneaky. I recently had some clown actually try that with me a couple of days ago, this week actually. Hey, I have an investor that wants to buy your token. I'm ready to go ahead and place the buy right now. You know what I did? I said, great, go to uplinkdefi.com, buy it there.
Yeah. What do you need?
No, I don't want to buy it that way. Why not? Yeah. Literally cut off communication, right? The next day, Telegram flagged that as a scammer. Like, how great would it be for you to be the guy that takes, or the gal that takes that to some of your favorite projects? Just a thought. Obviously biased, but I love that. I really love the fact that it protects you, it protects your project. That's the other side of it.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
the other
just
thing
easy,
too about
secure.
bear markets is that bear markets typically make a lot of these scam artists come out of the woodwork, because I mean, if you think about it, people become desperate, and then they turn to the dark side, and they become people like this.
Yeah,
right? They turn to the dark side.
Yeah, that's true.
I like
human
how
nature,
you just said
right?
that.
It's human nature.
I love how we went Palpatine voice on that one. Turn to the dark side.
It's true.
I see your question. I'm Mac Blaine. Just real quick, you can just send projects our way in Telegram. Just ping anyone you're seeing on the screen right now, whether it's Jason, Will, or I, and we'll take care of it.
Yeah, there's nothing for you guys to walk through. You're literally just going up to the project and saying, "Wouldn't you like your community investors to buy your token with a credit card?" There's uplink and send a DM. That's it.
All we ask is don't just come up with a name like I know of a project, but actually talk to them.
You have to make an introduction
and get them to the point where they're like, wow, yeah, I'm really interested. Can you make that connection? That's all we ask. That's it.
But on that note, we're also doing it. So if you don't want to do it, that's up to you. As they said, you guys can actually earn some commission, and you're benefiting the team, the project, the investors, everybody else. But we're also have our own collaborations, partnerships being made right now. All right, let's end it there. Guys, thanks for joining. Appreciate it as always. Definitely need to have another show on these exchanges. I like that. Thanks for joining. As always, hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment below if you have any other additional questions, or join us within Telegram. All the links are below in the description. We'll see you guys there.
Thanks all.
Thanks.